I've been playing dothack Infection because you have no time to game. Released in 2002 in Japan, 2003 in North America and 2004 in PAL regions, dothack was developed by CyberConnect and published by Bandai for the PlayStation 2. And I completed it in 13 hours, then added a couple of extra hours to finish up some other bits and pieces. And remember, I only review these games once I've seen the credits roll, to try and add some credibility to my reviews. Kind of. If you are a modern anime or even web novel fan, you're probably massively familiar with the isekai genre, which very loosely means something like transported into another world. And this takes many forms, from being summoned randomly, or you just die and get reincarnated, or another one is you get stuck in a game world. dothack Infection is one of the earliest examples of this genre in some senses. I'll specifically point out that our main dude Kite himself isn't stuck in the game, but he is related to others that kind of are. So what is a dothack Infection? Well, as alluded to before, we play as Kite, a young lad just starting a new game. The game is called The World. The World is an amazing feat of virtual engineering where you feel like you're in the game. And Kite, as a new player, joins up with his buddy Orca, a veteran, who's going to show you the ropes. But it's not long before things get weird, and the game seems to glitch out, and you and Orca come across a ghost-like girl being chased by a strange monster. Stuff happens and poor Orca real life is put in a coma and disappears. And you gain this strange bracelet. From this point on, you're dragged into a strange other side of the world that involves glitched areas, hackers, data draining, and people in real life being put into comas. And poor Kite, due to his bracelet, is at the heart of it. And so all he wants to do is figure out how to help his friend Orca. Doesn't really care about the rest, but he's dragged into it nonetheless. I actually really enjoyed the story. It's pretty simple, but the mystery does keep you going. Just a note about when I say things like player and party and the whole setup. The whole setup of this game is as if it's an MMO, but the game is single player. So if you do hear MMO terms, it's because it's an MMO in a single player game. It's a bit odd. So everything inside it in this game are NPCs. There's no other players, you're not playing with anyone else. But it's all themed as if you're dealing with real people, which is actually pretty cool. The gameplay in dothack is split into 3 sections. The first of which is our desktop, where you act like a normal human being, not a game character. It's basically this world's version of a desktop PC, and it's quite limited functionality wise. There's a news page, emails where your buddies from the game and others send you messages outside of the world. And then there are some basic settings and stuff. From this, you log into the world, and you're given the choice of going into the game or its board. The board is quite interesting, as it's basically like a gaming forum for people to post up threads in it, and others respond. As in, again, acting if it's a real world thing, like a real world gaming forum, but yeah. And it also acts as kind of like a manual to the game, as other players ask for advice and then are given answers. It's a pretty sweet way of explaining the game's mechanics. And you also gain hints of places to visit in the game. Then you log into the world itself. And you start in the first of 2 hub towns. And these are pretty simple. It has other players running around, a set of shops, and they're your basic fare, weapons, item, magic scrolls, save point and the storage. Storage is quite important, as you can only have 40 unique items at any time, of which you can have 99 of each unique item. So the storage allows you to control what you're taking on missions. As I've said, there are other players running around the town, and you can actually talk to them or even trade with them. The trading can be pretty useful, as some of them have unique items or just useful new weapons and such. But it's all a bit of trial and error to figure out what they want in return, as it doesn't state it clearly. Eventually you're going to go into the various worlds, and there are a couple of methods of doing this. Mostly you'll just be using something called the word list. Pretty much what it is, basically the word list is just a list of codes you get from the boards, emails and such that take you to the main quests or sub-quests that you've collected. The other option is creating your own words. And this is done by selecting a combination of 3 choices, and this will take you to like a random level. And the choices you made will define the level, the monsters, and all that sort of stuff. So it can be a bit of fun experimenting to see what you come up with. But you can actually set it beyond what you're able to handle. The final bit at the hub portal is gate hacking. This is very specific to story gates, as some of them are protected due to being bugged out, and so Kite has to use this bracelet and virus cores, something you collect from using the bracelet, to hack the gate using specific cores. And you get a fancy animation plays, and then you get to go into that world. Before going into the world, you want to do the basic RPG mechanics, like sort your gear out, add party members, and as you progress through the story, more and more people will add themselves to your in-game friend list, and you can take 2 of those buddies on a mission with you. Now, much like the other players running around, you can also trade items with your mates, but you can also give them gifts. If you give them weapons and armour, they even equip them sometimes if they're better than what they already have. And if you give them healing items, they can actually use those in battle. So it's a way of helping you heal out. Now we are ready for battle. We have a party, we're all geared up. We've chosen our gate, so we enter a world. In most cases, you'll find yourself in a field, and from here you have a couple of choices. That is to look for portals, from which enemies pop out or chests appear, talk to a weird thing in a lake where you can exchange for an item, from like a fancy axe, or it'll upgrade it, or enter the dungeon. You're going to want to clear the overworld of portals first. I recommend doing this, as most of the time it's worth it, because every bit of XP you get is useful. You can also use an item to show up all the portals on the minimap, which makes it a bit easier than go monster hunting. Some of the random maps actually have overworld enemies as well as the ones that pop out from the portals, so make sure to keep your eye out, otherwise you can get swarmed. The battles themselves are action RPG style, so you'll be running around mashing the button to attack. They're pretty simple, as all you can do is a basic attack or select a skill from the skill menu. Skills are decided not by levelling up, but by the equipment you have, so that makes for a fine balance between useful skills and better protection. Skills will use up your MP, but don't worry, as this slowly recharges even during battle. You can also use items from healing to magic scrolls. Your buddies will attack. You do have some level of control over this, as you can set their AI to things like attack freely or attack what you're attacking, or you can demand everyone use a skill like healing or magic, or specifically demand a specific member to use a specific skill. Mostly though, I just spam group heal or group magic. The enemies themselves all have an element, and the elements are paired to what they're strong and weak against, so it's useful to have a mix of elemental skills or different elemental scrolls. So yeah, overall the basic combat is pretty simple, but it's serviceable. And I didn't really feel like it was off-putting. Just don't expect something modern, like complex action battle system. It's still very menu driven. The big caveat to all this is the bracelet Kite gets from the strange ghost girl. When bashing enemies, you can break them, at which point you can use the bracelet to data drain, which does a couple of things. Firstly, it dramatically weakens the enemy, but also note this reduces the amount of XP that enemy gives you. Then you get either a fancy item or a virus core used for the gate hacking. And sometimes you even get a key item called a review book. The review books track various things like the number of enemies you've killed, and even give rewards when you hit certain targets. So it's kind of almost like an achievement list. The data drain is also very important for bosses, as in most cases you'll need to data drain them before you can even start to really hurt them. But there is a downside, as the more you use the data drain, the more affected the world becomes, and if you go too far, it's game over. But honestly, I never even got close to that. So as long as you're killing some enemies normally and not data draining everything, you'll be fine, as killing things normally reduces the world's corruption. So we have cleared the overworld, now it's time to enter the dungeon. The goal here is to get to the Got statue at the bottom. You'll be clearing up various rooms. Any with monster spawns, you'll need to kill the monsters before you can exit that room. You'll also find storage rooms with usually full of breakables and chests. It's worth smashing everything, as they tend to give you various heal items and such. And like the overworld, I recommend exploring every nook and cranny of the dungeon and kill everything. Like I said, it's all tracked by the review books, and you get rewards for complete clears. Eventually, in story dungeons, you might hit a boss room, denoted by having a glowy purple fire on the door, or the Got statue. The Got statue gives you fancy clear rewards. These are usually rarer items, so worth making sure you, even in the story dungeons, that you get to those Got statues, as usually if you defeat the dungeon boss, story things play out and you get kicked out. So Even if that happens, you usually can go back into the dungeon and do it again. But yeah, make sure you get the God statue and then go kill the dungeon boss. Overall, the gameplay loop is pretty simple. Gear up, grab friends, murder everything. Over on the world map, murder everything in the dungeon. Maybe kill a boss, go back to the hub, clean up your inventory, log out, check the boards, log out, check your emails and news, and rinse repeat. You know what, it was actually a pretty fun loop. So Infection hit a 75 Metascore, critic score, or a 7.5 user score. I don't think I've ever seen such agreement before. I personally rated it a bit higher, but it's fair. From the theming and the whole setup, I found this game was really endearing. And the only reason I hadn't finished it sooner was I honestly thought it was a 40+ hour game, and there are 4 of them in the series. And that's before you even count the GU follow-ups. So the idea of playing like multiple 40-hour games really put me off. But I'm glad I actually sat down to play this. While the gameplay is a little bit simplistic, it's not bad in any way, and the mystery of the world keeps you going. And I'm looking forward to playing the future games. So my rating for this is must play.